Shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's some social shit for everyone, you know what I'm saying? Like, I made this be myself, so hear me. Woo! I mean, like, we can put all that clown shit away. There's some real shit for you. I'm spazzing right now, so listen, let's go. Yeah. It's in their bones, the thugs in harmony for the love of the money. Then fall victim for the cookie, then turn pussy, it's lonely. You said you hold it down when life get rough, we're here now, so show me. We move them losses to them wins. Heavy pounds, we make it ends meet. Converse with only few who make me feel like I be 10 feet.
Yes, people, what is going on? We are back in the building. Guys, please, as always, make sure you are hitting the like button, smashing the subscribe button as well, and share this content out, please, and thank you. So guys, we're obviously here today to talk about none other than Liverpool forward slash winger slash midfielder. Heck, I'm surprised he hasn't played at centre back, and that is Cody Gakpo. So as we know with Cody Gakpo, you know, we signed him, well, technically on the 28th of December. You know, Liverpool had agreed a deal with PSV for, you know, Cody Gakpo, the Dutch winger slash forward, obviously joining Liverpool in January. And it's crazy when I think about, you know, when we did actually sign him, because at the time that we signed Gakpo, unfortunately for him, right, Liverpool fans did not necessarily want him. Now, when I say not want him, it's not like we hated him. It's not like, oh my goodness, why did you know, this player is a terrible player. It had nothing actually really to do with his ability, which is obviously unfair for him. I think at the time, Liverpool were going through a bit of a crisis, you know, in that midfield area. Of course, you know, we had an aging Fabinho, an aging Henderson, obviously Milner, you know, being who he is, of course, Mr. Trier, but ultimately he's aging as well. You know, we had Thiago, just couldn't stay fit, Oxlade-Chamberlain, who is that? You know, Naby Keita, who is that? Harvey Elliott, still kind of young, Curtis Jones, still kind of young. You know, we were just in a bit of a crisis, and we were having a crap season, you know, at the time that he kind of came in. And it was that kind of, you know, why did you spend your money in an area that we didn't necessarily need? We kind of already had players, you know, who could play there. We had players who could fill in that slot. And to be honest with you, when it comes to Liverpool's attack, that was never really and never has been that much of an issue, especially, you know, in that Jurgen Klopp era. So when we kind of looked at it as Liverpool fans, you know, the majority, from what I could see, social media and stuff like that, you know, people, you know, just talking to people, and it was that, you know, why did you sign him? You know, it's such a waste of a signing. Is it just because, you know, Manchester United looked like they were about to get him? You know, he looked like he was, you know, all ready to go to Manchester United. And to be honest, I think he would have gone. I don't think, you know, we can sit here and say, oh my goodness, you know, we snatched him. I think obviously we snatched him in the end, but I do think that he would have been happily playing for Manchester United, you know, at this point in time. So yeah, you know, it was a weird signing. I won't lie to you. So he already came into this, you know, with the kind of, you know, that preconceived notion from a lot of fans where it's like, don't know about this one. You know, I don't know if this is really the right way to go. I don't really know if this is the direction that the club should be necessarily heading in with someone, you know, like Cody Gakpo. But ultimately, of course, he came in, you know, he was, unfortunately, again, he was a part of that was a very poor Liverpool side, poorly coached, poor performances and things like, you know, it was a horrible season. Liverpool obviously finishing 5th, you know, in that season, missing out on Champions League football and getting Europa League football. You know, it was just too much kind of going on, and you know, everything just didn't really seem right, you know, with the football club at that moment in time. So again, he wasn't coming into the best environment. He wasn't coming into, you know, an environment where you could say, you know what, you could thrive within this environment, because, you know, everything's kind of going how it used to go. You know, everyone's happy, everyone's kind of just doing their thing. We've got this one common goal, and, you know, everything looks fine. But, you know, that season, everything was not fine. And, you know, you saw that with the performances on the pitch. And when he came in, it was, like I said, I feel sorry for him at times, because I'm like, this is a player who, he predominantly plays on the left wing, as an example, for PSV, you know, for Holland. Well, Holland, he kind of mixes and matches between left wing and up front, but for club football, he does play on that left-hand side. He's come to Liverpool. We've kind of asked him to do this kind of, I would say, like, Firmino role, which at the time I just didn't understand. Like, you're signing a player. I get it, of course. When you sign a player, you know, they need to obviously be able to, you know, you're signing them because you think that they can understand your system, right? And they can play within your system. So you're hoping that they can play in the position that you envisaged for them when they signed. But you signed a guy who can do one thing really, really, really well. And the player that you're almost trying to get him to replicate in Roberto Firmino played such a unique role that you trying to get someone else to do that, the chances were never ever going to be high. And I think that, you know, that was one of the things that baffled me about Klopp was, you know, you kind of sat there and thought, what are you actually trying to do here? You know, you're ruining a player. You know, and you've done that quite a lot with quite a few players where you've just kind of turned them into something that they are not. So now we're not even seeing the best of this player anymore because they're having to do something that's completely outside of the remit of, you know, what they can actually do in their own capabilities. And listen, look, I may have my own reservations about the player in terms of just how good he really is, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But the reality is, I did feel that it was a little bit unfair, you know, that he was being asked to do that. And then on top of that, you know, as you know, we get into the following season, you know, it gets even worse because now Klopp's just playing this guy anywhere. You know, he's using a player who I guess he feels is quite versatile in what they can do. The problem is you're trying to put this guy in just any random position and you're hoping that you're still going to get the same level of performances that you would see had you just put him on the left as an example, or even, you know, up front. And I just felt like you're just pulling him from pillar to post. And unfortunately, in my personal opinion, those kind of things can hinder development, because when you start putting players into positions that they're not necessarily comfortable in, you start asking them to do jobs that they probably can't really do. What you start to then notice and what you see is, one, their performances, of course, across matches start to, you know, really dip, you know, and then they start to kind of almost ghost completely, you know, out of games where it's like, you know what, I can't even really get into this game. I'm still trying to figure out the position. It's almost like I'm playing literally a brand new position and I have to learn it on the go. Now, of course, you've got injuries, you know, you need to play someone there kind of thing. But I just felt that he wasn't the player to play in those positions, especially, you know, in that midfield area, and asked him to basically be a midfielder, but then also think like an attacker, you know, when you get close to the edge of the box. I just felt like you were asking him to do, you know, too much at such an early stage of his Liverpool career and his Liverpool development. And that was always what I felt when I looked at him, was that this is a guy that you don't know what he does, because at the end of the day, we haven't seen it. We've seen videos, we watched him on international duty, as everybody loves to do, and they talk about it like it's, you know, the greatest thing since sliced bread, and I totally understand that. But the reality is, international football and club football are two completely different footballs. Now, the reality is, what he does for club football, he might not necessarily do for international football, and we see that with more or less every single player, bar a few, where it's always a different kind of role that you will play in. With Cody Gakpo, it was like that for the, you know, for the Dutch team. You know, for them, you know, Dutch team, not really that good. Kind of a sleeping giant, you know, so to speak, I would say, when I think about the Dutch national team. But obviously they're still trying to, you know, work their way back up to, you know, a respectable kind of level, you know, the level where we saw the Robin van Persie's, the, you know, the Iron Robbins, the Wesley Snyders, you know, people of that kind of ilk. Right now they've fallen, you know, by the wayside. So he was quite an important cog, I feel, within that Dutch team, which is absolutely fine, because your level of importance over there, the role that you play there, you know, the way that the players see you, the way that the manager sees you, the way that the manager relies upon you is totally different. Of course, when you come to club football, he was so far down the food chain that it was pointless even talking about it in terms of as a player, not because of his ability. It's just, you're talking about players who have been here for ages, you know, the Hendersons, you know, the Salahs, the Firminos, the Manes, the, you know, all of these kind of individuals who had been there for such a long time, you know, who have this status, who have this kind of air about them being at Liverpool and have also been successful. Of course, it's hard and it's going to be difficult for you to be able to just come in and, you know, do your thing. So if then the manager starts far-arsing around and starts playing you in this position and that position and, you know, left, right and centre, of course, it's going to hinder, you know, your performances. Hence why now, when you fast forward now, you know, to his time, you know, with Arne Slot, especially, you know, this season, you could see, I think the qualities that he possesses, whether you rate them highly or not, but the qualities he does have, you're seeing them on a more consistent basis. And I think, for Gakpo, and that was one of my criticisms, of him as a player, was that he was someone who would always ghost in games. And, when unfortunately, you're not a Salah. You can't ghost because you can't get me GA. Salah will ghost and still get you the GA, which is something. Unfortunately for someone like Gakpo, he would ghost and give you nothing. And when a player does that, they add no value to the team, they add no value to the squad, and they just become more of a hindrance. And that's what I felt about Gakpo, for a period of time, was he was just more of a hindrance more than anything, because it's almost like we have to feel sorry for him because he's not playing, in this position or that position. But when he does play in his position, he's not really doing anything. And he might have the odd game, we saw the game against, of course, Manchester United. You start to kind of hope and pray, like, okay, yeah, this is gonna, ignite that fire, within Gakpo. But then he goes back, to, more or less doing what he was doing before. And it's just like, oh, okay, yeah, we don't really need him, because then you've got Diaz in there and, Diogo Jota. Then we, Nunes is obviously trying to vie for a spot and stuff like that. And, it just becomes more problematic. But I think this season, like I said, he is showing a level of consistency. It's not just about the goals, and I need people to kind of understand this. The problem is that, like I said, not everybody can be Salah. Do you know what I mean? Where you score so many goals that if you do ghost, it's not going to be a massive problem, because you can probably cover it up in some way, shape or form. Obviously, you want performances, blah, 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 blah. But ultimately, if I can at least get goals from you, then it's not going to be so much of a big deal. With him, you're not getting any. And that was the problem. But this season, as I said, he's got to play 32 games, 14 goals and 5 assists. So for the GA gods out there, that's 19 GA in 32 games. Only 8 goals in the Premier League. Played quite a bit of minutes, to be fair. So I do think that's something that he's going to, of course, he's going to, I'd like to think he reaches double figures, in the Premier League, for this season. He is playing more. Arne Slot seems to be using him, a lot more, this season, especially with the fact that I think what's helped him is that Liverpool have a striker issue at this current moment in time, in terms of, Diogo Jota, Darwin Nunes, Luis Diaz, all three of them, none of them really, pushing for a start, so to speak. It's constantly chopping and changing. That because of that, Diaz has obviously been moved into that middle of the park. And then now you've got, of course, someone like Cody Gakpo, who can now take that left wing spot, because that's really the only good position he can actually play in. So, to be honest, I guess the real question is, did Klopp fumble the bag? With someone like a Cody Gakpo, did he really fumble it in terms of, the performances that we're kind of now seeing from Cody Gakpo, this season? And again, it's even in games where I don't actually feel he's performing that well overall this season, but he's getting me the goal. He's getting me the assist. He might even get the pre-assist, kind of thing. And for me, that is so important for an attacker. I think we need to start understanding with attackers, I think there's this kind of notion that attackers need to be performing all the time to be effective. I think when it comes to attackers, there isn't really that need in order for the team to still go out there and obviously, of course, win games. Attackers are probably the one position I can say that they don't need to be performing all the time in order for them to actually be effective as a player. If they can still provide you with a GA regardless, as much as you want to see those performances, I just think that if they can provide you with the one thing that the other players can't, that's so invaluable. It's the most valuable thing in football above every single thing. Don't listen to what anybody else tells you about what's the most valuable thing in football. The most valuable thing in football is goals. It always has been, always will be. It's the reason why people go to football matches. They don't go there to see a guy tackle. They don't go there to see people dribbling. They go there to see goals. It's the most important thing. So if people can provide you with goals or even assist, obviously an assist for a goal, trust me, it's the most valuable thing. If you can provide that, we're good to go. And I think this season he is providing that. As much as I say, I still think that you can upgrade on someone like a Gakpo. I think there is better out there than a Gakpo, just in terms of the style of player that he actually is. But ultimately this season he is proving to be, quite competent at, at his job role. And it seems that Arne Slot really does have, has gotten the kind of best version that we've seen at Liverpool anyway, out of Cody Gakpo. But let me know, people, of course, your thoughts on Cody Gakpo, of course, for this season. You know, and also looking towards the future. Is he someone you would like for us to keep? You know, moving forward, do you think we can upgrade on a Cody Gakpo? If so, who is that player that you guys think would be a perfect signing, you know, for Liverpool Football Club? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, people. I'll catch you on the other side. Peace.